Now, joining us, we have Charles Ajuya, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is a former Delta Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. He'll join us to speak on the new CJN and other legal matters. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us on Galaxy TV News.
Yes.
All right, good evening. I see that we also have Ngozi Oleyi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joining us. Many thanks for joining us today on Galaxy TV News. So I'm going to be starting with Charles Ajuya. So Nigeria is at a stage where the citizens are calling for judicial reforms. How urgent do we need this reform, taking into consideration several allegations against judicial officers?
Well, thank you very much. May I start by congratulating His Lordship, the new CJN, for the confirmation. But we know that by the grace of God, she will be confirmed and she will get there. But just to say that we talked about reform, and in my view, how urgent the reform will require ought to have been yesterday. So, if you ask me about how urgent, I think it's a long desired reform that we've been all waiting for. Lawyers, the courts, the politicians, the businessmen, in fact, the economy and the democracy, we've all been waiting for reforms of the judiciary. Long overdue.
Okay, all right, and now to Ngozi Oleyi. As a new CJN comes on board, what are the challenges you think should be given the most attention?
Well, there are quite some very, very urgent challenges. Appointment of judicial officers, there needs to be some reforms in that regard. And the confidence of the people have withered so much, the confidence they have on the judiciary. And if it continues that way, that is very, very dangerous if we are to have a democracy in Nigeria. So it is very, very urgent. Nigeria, indeed, by all available indices, has become a failed state. And if we have to recover Nigeria from the bottom of the pit that it is presently, one of the things that must be recognized is that there is a nexus between the judicial institution and economic development. So this question of delay of cases in courts, and I believe that in the absence of corruption, if we do not have corruption, we have enough resources with emphasis, that will sustain appointment of more justices of the Supreme Court, even though the law limits it to 21. Get that law amended. This issue of having land matters or civil cases lasting for 10 years at the Supreme Court is a sad development. So the reform should also take that into consideration. And of course, restoring the confidence of the people, as I said, is critical to our moving forward when we are talking about rising from where we are right now to noble heights that we ought to be.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. And now to Charles Ajuya Sad. So the judiciary is said to be the last hope of the common man. So what advice would you give to the newly sworn in CJN? Because it seems that people might be losing hope as a result of what many see as questionable court judgments.
Yes, it has always been the position we say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But I think that we have come to a stage where the judiciary is the last hope for everybody, not just the common man, even for those who are not common people. Judiciary is also the last hope. But I will have to say this, that what advice I'm going to give to the CJN I don't think I can give any other advice other than what she has said after her swearing in. I mean, she gave indication of the areas that needs to be worked upon. I totally agree with you, Mr. Worship. First, of course, the reforms, particularly with appointments, all the quarrels surrounding the appointment has to be addressed moving forward. He talked about working collaboratively with fellow justices to drive a meaningful change. I totally agree with that. Tackling the shortcomings within the judiciary heads on, I totally agree with her. So if these three are done, then I'm sure that she'll be able to reshaping the judiciary and build confidence in the judiciary. There are many more that can be done, but these three are very, very critical. By the law, she has 4 years. Given that we did these things within 4 years, I'm sure that she will take the judiciary to a higher level where people will respect the judiciary. So I would say that yes, it's a hope for the common man, but if the common man or the people at the top are not seeing these changes, then I think we are really going to see the judiciary going down. And of course, anarchy becomes the next change. We don't pray we get to that level. We pray that the judiciary will be able to take on these critical areas and deal with them decisively.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. And now to Ngozi Oleye. Finally, one of the major challenges in the judicial system is believed to be that of lower courts not having jurisdiction of some cases, and then they go ahead to give judgment. What do you think needs to be done in this regard?
Well, it depends substantially on the quality of arguments before the courts. If a lawyer in a matter attacks the jurisdiction of the court has a duty to address that issue before proceeding in the matter. And I came across one funny pronouncement. I mean, that is the reality, because at all levels we are all human, that courts have jurisdiction to be wrong in law. So, and that is why we have the appellate system, so that if a court does not satisfy you at the first level, you proceed to the next level. If it doesn't satisfy you, you proceed to the next level. And I'm sure by the time you go through all these processes, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to have been done. So it's not a big deal as such if the quality of arguments are sound enough to give a judge the direction that he ought to follow in any case.
All right, thank you very much for that. Many thanks to Ngozi Oleye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Charles Ajuya, also a Senior Advocate of Nigeria and former Delta Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. Thank you both so much for being part of our news at this time.